Let's begin with the ongoing Nigerian Economic Summit. Day 2 of the 30th summit is underway in Abuja, bringing together regional and global leaders to address the nation's socio-economic challenges. The summit, themed Collaborative Action for Growth, Competitiveness and Stability, aims to mobilize leaders to tackle pressing economic realities. The summit provides a platform for stakeholders to engage in critical discourse on issues such as economic competitiveness, inclusive growth, and sustainable development. With Nigeria's unemployment rate on the rise, the summit's focus on promoting economic stability, economic growth, and stability is timely. This year's summit marks a significant milestone in the organization's journey towards promoting a modern, globally competitive and inclusive Nigerian economy.
I think that's the very first place to start. I mean, this time last year we still had elevated interest rates around the world. We had a tightening of funding, particularly concessional funding. In fact, the flow was the other way. There was more being paid to the multilateral development banks that was being received in help and funding from the developing world, which meant the number one place to look was inwards, domestic resource mobilization. That's where the government started. By the first half of this year, revenue was double in terms of aggregate government revenue was more than double. And that was achieved by applying technology very, very robustly. I think you've heard about what is being done on the tax side in order to rationalize taxes, make them more efficient, and stop them being a negative incentive to business to invest.
For decades, Nigeria's economy has been heavily reliant on oil exports, accounting for over 90% of its foreign exchange earnings. However, with the global shift towards renewable energy and the volatility of oil prices, experts say Nigeria must diversify its export base. Agriculture in particular holds immense growth potential and also could become the country's new economic backbone.
The global cassava market is projected to reach $4.5 billion by 2025, growing at a compound annual growth rate of 5%. Capturing just 10% of this market share could generate $450 million annually for Nigeria, creating thousands of jobs and contributing significantly to the country's GDP. Historically, Nigeria's oil reserves have been the primary economic focus due to the easy revenue, infrastructure development, and government reliance they provide. However, this singular focus has led to the neglect of other critical sectors such as agriculture, hindering efforts to diversify the economy.
Some of us see farming as a way of being enslaved or an hard labor. So there is no way whereby you want to say, oh, let me go ahead and invest in farming, or let me try and develop a career in farming. But nowadays, I believe individuals are taking a lot of new, innovative, and taking it forward. We are bringing in technology into farming. So I think we can do much more if the government should create and see the agricultural industry as a business and as a career.
Insecurity and flooding in northern Nigeria have significantly impacted agricultural production in the region. With fertile lands and a favorable climate, the north is ideally suited for crops like rice, wheat, and soybeans. Experts believe addressing challenges through strategic investment in irrigation system, security, and agricultural research can help unlock the region's vast potential. If prioritized, agriculture could contribute up to 30% of Nigeria's GDP, surpassing the current share of oil. Collaborating with Nigerian diaspora and communities can help widen the country's export reach to global markets.
We have opportunities here. We have agricultural products. They are there. They have the market. They understand. Like the question I asked, How come why won't we enter shops and see Nigerian products? For this area we can collaborate. So that anytime we are going, then we can get them and open them to opportunities there are. Some of them are there. They also want to connect to Nigeria, but they don't know how to. They are the market. We have the largest population. They are the market. We have the market already. Then for those of them who want to invest, so if we structure, like you said, give it a name, we call it the diaspora marketplace, working with you, I think we already have a program that we can collaborate with.
By embracing agriculture as a key driver of economic growth, Nigeria can reduce its dependence on oil and pave the way for a brighter future for its citizens through diversification and job creation in this critical sector. In Lagos 4 News Central, I am Igbalani Omoni.
To politics now. The Umar Damagum-led faction of the People's Democratic Party says that it will deploy the services of security agencies to enforce the court order that validates Damagum as the national chairman of the party. The acting national publicity secretary of the party made this known to newsmen at the press conference at the PDP National Secretariat in Abuja. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
It's not business as usual here at the PDP National Secretariat as the leaders here battle not just for identity but for supremacy. This press conference was necessitated following claims by the faction of the party led by the party's treasurer, Yayari Mohammed, that the current executives of the party are illegally occupying their position, an infringement of the party's constitution. This, however, is not going down well with the Umar Damagun-led faction.
Following the absence of our substantive officers, it is made abundantly clear on Section 42 and Section 42, subsection 2. It is therefore distasteful for a leader or leaders who ought to inform the uninformed, instead goes ahead to misinform on a national television that our assumption of office is unconstitutional and does not exist.
They vowed to deploy the services of security agencies to maintain order in the party and enforce a court order validating Damagun's position.
In the face of the reckless violation of a subsisting court order, therefore, we are hereby left with no option but to deploy the services of security agencies in the enforcement of the rule of law. As you are hearing this in the media waves, we also are hearing it in the media waves, and that was the reason we allowed it to fly for the last 3 days, more or less 68 hours now. We thought we would give him enough opportunity to come and denounce, distance, and dissociate himself from that so-called appointment. Nobody will see it from the comfort of their room. And in any case, the moment you are said to have taken suspension, you cease to act in whatever capacity you were acting before. And this is not just to do with politics. It is the legal position of law, and that is what obtains statutorily. You have no reason whatsoever to say a word within the period you are on suspension until you have your name cleared of the allegations leveled against you. So whatever the so-called suspenders did is not only null and void, it is strange in the face of law, and it constitutes nothing but the disposition of touts in the motor park.
Despite reports of the emergence of a new acting national chairman of the party, Yayari Mohammed, the PDP secretariat continues to be occupied by the Umar Damagun-led executive with no trace of the Yayari Mohammed-led faction in sight. In Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Stakeholders in Plateau State say all hands need to be on deck to mitigate against climate change and disasters in communities for the benefits of future generations. Now, this was made known at an event organized by the National Emergency Management Agency in collaboration with the Center for Gospel Health and Development in Jos to mark this year's International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. Chizoba Anyonwe was there for News Central and now reports.
Climate change, with its effects experienced by many people in many different ways in our world today, is a wake-up call on all and sundry to ensure we engage in activities that will reduce disasters in our communities. To mark the 2024 International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, NEMA, in conjunction with SIGAD, began with a roadwork to sensitize the public on the need to have a safer society devoid of disasters.
We just felt it very important to gather these students and other of our stakeholders to also sensitize them and to even also advocate to them in respect to the climate change as we have globally, and also to see how we can have an interface with them, to also how to train them again on all these aspects.
You know, there's a concern that with the way we're going, we would need to prepare the communities, we need to prepare our societies to protect the future generation.
Floods, erosion, deforestation, global warming, and fire outbreaks, among others, are reasons for urgent action against these natural and man-made disasters. With stakeholders here seeing the need to contribute to disaster risk reduction, every other citizen is challenged to do more.
I'll clear the drainages and also educate my fellow individuals on how to address the issue of environmental disasters.
And I would like to educate some of my fellow mates about these disasters which are happening to us and how to prevent them.
The government should put on efforts and encourage we people that are doing this thing so that we have more strength to do more than this.
It has made us more aware of why we need disaster management in our lives, because we don't have to wait for disasters to happen before we know how to tackle them.
We'll definitely take the information back to the community and educate our people the more, giving them the awareness and add to what we've known in order to improve the management on disaster.
The theme for this year's celebration is empowering the next generation for a resilient future. Education remains key. In Jos for New Central, Chizoba and Nyowe.
We'll take a break now, and when we come back, Kogi State seeks urgent aid as floods displaces over 200 communities. We'll bring you this and more after the break. Welcome back. The Kogi State Government has once again appealed to the federal government and international donor agencies for urgent assistance as devastating floods have displaced over 200 communities in the state. Addressing journalists in Kotonkarfe, the State Commissioner for Information and Communications, Honorable Kingsley Fanwo, warned that the state is on the brink of a major humanitarian crisis with nearly 2 million people left homeless by the flooding. Fanwo urged the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to act swiftly, stating that Kogi State is already overwhelmed by the disaster. The hardest hit areas include Lokoja, Adavi, Ofu, Ajaokuta, Idah, and Ibaji Local Government Areas.
For the past 10 to 15 years now, we are suffering a lot of hardship. Apart from that, the water has been disturbing every community. Like me, as I'm talking to right now, I have a house in this place, built. The one at the back of me now is my house. And for the past 4 or 5 years, water has been disturbing us frequently. We'll go, we'll come back. And as it is now, we have nowhere to even go to now.
This fraud is come always year by year. It will spoil something for this our area. We need the local government help to help us.
I was sleeping in the night, that the next thing we see is my son. It was my son that woke up to go and ease himself, and he discovered that the water take over the house and everywhere was filled up with the flood.
To health matters, Public health experts have become increasingly alarmed about the continued waning of public confidence in vaccines. It is on this note that the Lagos State Government, through its Ministry of Information and Strategy, in collaboration with UNICEF, organized a media sensitization program to create awareness of the forthcoming vaccination program in the state. News Central's Omolola Ololade brings us more in this report.
The recent outbreaks of different diseases in Nigeria, such as yellow fever, measles, diphtheria, and more recently, cholera, are becoming increasingly worrisome, hence the need for high levels of immunization coverage in the country. The Lagos State Ministry of Information and Strategy, in collaboration with UNICEF, organized a media orientation on non-polio supplementary immunization activities to create more awareness and increase sensitization on the forthcoming immunization exercise in the state.
The process itself commences on the 19th of October 2024, and it's going to be initially for the first 2 weeks, and then we will assess and see what our coverage is like. We are expected to have at least 95% coverage. It will be available in all our PHCs. We'll take it to where we know that people are going to congregate. We'll take it to churches. We'll take it to mosques. We'll take it to motor parks. We'll take it to schools. We'll take it everywhere as long as we know that people are going to congregate.
We have engaged every aspect of the community. So for once, we started planning from the bottom all the way to the top, rather than doing it from the top to the bottom. So engagement actually started from the ward level. We started engaging all the CDAs, all the CDCs. We've engaged all the religious bodies at the ward level, at the local government level, and at the state level. Because at the end of the day, you can only gain acceptance when you have the buy-in of the gatekeepers of the communities.
However, demystifying the myths and misconceptions about childhood vaccines plays a pivotal role in closing the gap in vaccine equity while increasing vaccine trust amongst the populace.
In vaccine trust acceptance, owing to a lot of rumors being populated. And so we need a channel where people, as much as they hear the rumors, they also come back to those rumors through trusted platforms. And that is why this meeting has been called, because we realize that the media is a voice that reaches the voiceless and a platform to reach many. Hence the reason for this meeting. We want to get allies from media practitioners to help us use their platforms, their channels and their network to increase vaccine safety, to increase vaccine trust and acceptance.
Health experts therefore believe in the transformative power of harnessing the media as part of a broad public health approach to promote vaccine confidence, hence the need for media campaigns and sensitization programs in various parts of the country. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Omolola Ololade.
Abia State Government says it has been able to contain the spread of some communicable diseases ravaging parts of the country. Commissioner for Information, Oke Kanu, told journalists in Umuahia on Monday that the state government was able to record the achievement through dedication and commitment to the well-being of its citizens. He said for this reason, the state does not have any current case of cholera, diphtheria, or Lassa fever.
I want to report that as at date, Abia State is free from any new cases of cholera, Lassa fever, diphtheria, and Mpox. And what that speaks to is the fact that our State Minister of Health are alive to their duties, working around the clock to ensure that Abians and Abia residents enjoy good health.
Away from that, Nigeria's federal government says that it is set to commence the implementation of a new school curriculum that will ensure learners from primary school level to junior secondary school level graduate with at least 2 skills that will be relevant to their livelihoods. Nigeria's Minister of Education, while speaking to newsmen in Abuja, says that the curriculum which will take effect from January 2025, will equip young Nigerians with skills from the basic education level. Our correspondent, Idah Joseph, completes the report.
Since the introduction of the revised 9-year basic education curriculum in 2012, followed by its implementation 2 years later in 2014, the existing curriculum for basic level education in Nigeria seems to be outdated. This is because many believe it has left learners ill-prepared for the challenges of life, denying them the capacity to take advantage of the opportunities that lie before them in today's world. Recognizing the critical need for curriculum reform, Nigeria's Education Minister reveals that in the last 12 months, the government has been working with stakeholders to design a new curriculum that injects relevant skills into the nation's basic education system.
Students should be able to finish school with at least minimum of 2 skills so that they can have a very productive life. So that curriculum, the basis for that curriculum is the National Skills Framework, and it has been approved. And then we said also that what was approved was for the basic education. What is ready is for the basic education. We have set a timeline for implementation.
The new curriculum contains 15 new subjects around basic digital literacy, building and construction, events management, as well as agriculture and processing. He says that the curriculum will affect public and private schools to ensure they join learners in the developed world to become employers.
Right now, part of the problem why schooling has become unattractive because people finish and there's no change in their life. No change. They cannot be employed, they can't do anything on their own. So parents question the value of why are we spending money to send people to school. Now it's going to change that game.
While stating that work is ongoing to commence the implementation of the new curriculum in January next year, Nigeria's Minister of Education says that the senior secondary school curriculum is also currently being reviewed. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idah Joseph.
Welcome back. Members of FESHI, the now suspended School and Student Federation, have been arrested by authorities in Côte d'Ivoire in a murder investigation after 2 people, including its leader's main rival, were found dead. The powerful group has been accused of sowing terror on Abidjan University campuses for years.
Ici sur le campus de Cocody, il est clairement visible. Elle règne en maître absolu, elle est seule. Donc elle ne permet pas aux autres organisations, en tout cas, de pouvoir s'exprimer clairement sur le campus. Elle règne rien que par les actes de violence. On empêche les autres de s'exprimer, vous voulez prendre la parole, en tout cas, vous prononcez au sein du campus, mais ils vont venir, bon, ces membres vont venir, et puis bon, pour vous arracher le micro, ils vont vous, en tout cas, vous torturer. Et ces cas sont légion. Ces cas sont légion. Donc quand c'est comme ça fait peur aux autres organisations qui refusent en tout cas de pouvoir venir sur le campus et pouvoir s'exprimer. Vous faites une réunion, on vous empêche de tenir la réunion.
In the East, Human Rights Watch have accused Rwandan authorities of perpetrating serious human rights abuses in detention facilities, including torturing inmates, denouncing a lack of accountability for those responsible. According to the group, political dissent and free speech have been crushed under President Paul Kagame's 3-decade rule, with international campaigners long decrying the shrinking civil rights space in the East African country. HRW's report is based on interviews between 2019 and 2024 with almost 30 people, including former inmates, as well as court documents and interviews shared online. The organization said it contacted the government in September over the report's findings, but it is yet to receive a response.
and their sons and daughters.
A Kenyan court is due to rule on a last-ditch case seeking to stop a Senate debate and vote on the impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. In a historic move last week, the lower house of Parliament, the National Assembly, voted overwhelmingly to impeach Gachagua on 11 charges, including corruption. The 59-year-old has denied all allegations and will continue to serve in his role until the Senate decides whether to approve his removal. Gachagua filed the court challenge to stop the upper house's proceedings set for Wednesday and Thursday, arguing that his impeachment had been unfair and fast-tracked. In southern Africa, former Botswana President Ian Khama has returned to the country after years of exile, making it clear that he only returned to unseat his former close ally, President Mokgweetsi Masisi, from office. Khama has called Masisi the Botswana version of Donald Trump and believes appointing him as his successor in the governing Botswana Democratic Party was a mistake. The ex-president had been living in South Africa since falling out with Masisi, and in a sign of mistrust between the two men, he said he pays for his own private security guards despite being entitled to state-funded protection. Khama is now campaigning against his former boss. His former party, Botswana, will be heading to the polls on the 30th of this month, with the incumbent president, Mokgweetsi Masisi, seeking a second and final term. South Africans are losing hope that there will be any justice for the family of the slain Orlando Pirates and Bafana Bafana star Senzo Meyiwa, who was gunned down at his then-girlfriend's house in Vosloorus in 2014. Proceedings in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial were postponed once again on Monday as the state could not secure the attendance of its witness lead investigator, Brigadier Bongani Geninda. Meanwhile, two of the accused complained about their conditions in prison and want the court to do something. Let's head to Northern Africa, where a bus crashed on a highway in Egypt on Monday, killing 12 people and injuring 33. The bus was carrying commuting college students home from Galala University in Egypt's Eastern Suez Governorate when it flipped on the highway. No other vehicle was involved in the accident, and investigations were underway to determine the reason for the crash. The health ministry said the injured were transferred to a nearby hospital from which 19 were discharged. Road accidents are common in Egypt, where drivers often disregard traffic rules and many roads are in bad repair. Official figures say more than 5,600 people were killed in road accidents in 2023 in the country. In other news from around the world, U.S. Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris has warned American voters against a second term, citing his threats to use the U.S. military against the enemy within, including left-wingers. Harris stated this at a campaign rally in Erie, Pennsylvania, a critical state to win elections. Elections.
I believe so strongly that a second Trump term would be a huge risk for America and dangerous. Donald Trump is increasingly unstable and unhinged. So all of this is to say, I will always put the middle class and working families first. I come from the middle class, and I will never forget where I come from. Never forget where I come from. Never.
United Nations says its peacekeepers will stay in all positions in Lebanon despite Israeli's call for them to move amid intensifying fighting between Israel and Hezbollah and 5 blue helmets suffering injuries. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday again called for the peacekeepers in southern Lebanon to move from certain areas close to Israel's border with Lebanon, insisting it was completely false that Israeli forces targeted the UN force UNIFIL. Israel has faced severe criticism over injuries and damage sustained by the UN peacekeeping force, which has been deployed in Lebanon since the first of Israel's 4 major ground offensives against its neighbor in 1978.
The decision was made that UNIFIL would currently stay in all its position in spite of the calls that were made by the Israeli Defense Forces to vacate the position that are in the vicinity of the Blue Line.
Qatar's ruler, Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, has accused Israel of having pre-existing plans to escalate the violence in Lebanon and West Bank. He said this while addressing the Shura Council in Qatar. According to him, the easiest and fastest way to stop the escalation on the border with Lebanon would have been to stop the war extermination on Gaza.
لقد كان المخرج الأسهل والأسلم لوقف التصعيد على الحدود مع لبنان هو وقف حرب الإبادة على غزة الذي تطالب به غالبية البشرية. ولكن إسرائيل اختارت عن قصد أن توسع العدوان لتنفيذ مخططات معدة سلفا في مواقع أخرى مثل الضفة الغربية ولبنان، لأنها ترى أن المجال متاحا لذلك. إننا ندعو إلى وقف العدوان على لبنان، كما ندعو إلى تنفيذ القرارات الدولية بما في ذلك قرار مجلس الأمن 1701 عام 2006.
In the world of sports, NFF President Ibrahim Gusau met with Minister of Foreign Affairs Ambassador Yusuf Tugar following Nigeria's contingent's return from Libya. Addressing the incident, Tugar emphasized that sports should remain free from politics and called for fairness in its administration. He urged CAF and organizers to closely examine the situation and take decisive action to prevent a reoccurrence, highlighting the importance of maintaining integrity in international sporting events.
Sports and the sporting ethos is to take it outside of politics and to ensure that the maximum level of fairness is applied. So a situation where a team will go out to play in a foreign country and they are subjected to this sort of treatment and then still expected to be on top of their game when they play, clearly you can see that this does not apply. It's something that I think the CAF and other bodies that organize and supervise these soccer matches have to pay closer attention to and take action, decisive action, so that this sort of situation will never occur again. Thank you.
Still talking sports, former Lagos State Commissioner of Sports and Youth Development, Waheed Oshodi, has been unanimously elected president of the African Table Tennis Federation during the 2024 annual general meeting in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. This election makes Oshodi the only Nigerian currently leading a continental sports body. Key stakeholders from various member countries at the AGM endorsed his leadership and vision for the sport's future. Oshodi's election marks a pivotal moment for African table tennis, reflecting confidence in its ability to drive growth and success on the continent. His presidency signals a new era for the sports governance in Africa. The Confederation of African Football has removed the Group D second leg fixture of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier between Nigeria and Libya. Scheduled for today, the match was omitted from CAF's updated list of games. Nigerian Super Eagles had previously defeated Libya 1-0 in the first leg at Godswill Akpabio Stadium, Uyo, on Friday. However, after enduring an alleged mistreatment at Libya's airport, the Nigerian team returned home. CAF has launched an investigation into the incident, while the Libya Football Federation has accused Nigeria of sabotage and threatened legal action. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. You heard that federal government has moved to optimize Nigeria's tax compliance for businesses. You also heard that authorities in Côte d'Ivoire have suspended student organization over murder probe. We also told you that 12 college students have been killed in fatal bus crash in Egypt. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen. Usman.